So this episode that you're about to hear was actually supposed to be part of a larger episode. However, since we wound up talking about Avengers Endgame for about 90 minutes, it just was way too long to put into any regular episode. So I decided just to edit this, cut it out, and make it its own episode. So what we do is we do a spoiler-free review of Avengers Endgame up front, and then we put up the big spoiler warning, and we go through the movie chronologically as things happen, and we just kind of discuss what we thought about each scene and each character moment and stuff like that. It was really the only way that we could come to an agreement about how to condense all the information that was in Avengers Endgame. You know, we had tried making lists and writing out things that we wanted to talk about, and then we wound up just missing things that were kind of really important, and it became really scatterbrained. So instead, we're actually just going to go through the movie chronologically, scene by scene, and every little bit of thing that we really enjoyed, we kind of like touch on. Other things that made us scratch our head, we touch on. So we have a lot of fun talking about Avengers Endgame, and I hope you guys have just as much fun listening to it. We're about to play the episode here, and it's about 13 minutes from this point on that you will hear the non-spoiler review of it, and then we will get into the spoiler section. So without any further ado, here is our Avengers Endgame review and spoiler cast. Welcome to Super Movie Brothers. Let's start the show.
This is a podcast on the Podfix Network. You can check out more shows like it at podfixnetwork.com.
Welcome to Super Movie Brothers, episode 148. I'm your host, Super Movie Brother Dave.
I'm your host, Super Movie Brother Jay.
And as with all MCU film reviews, we are joined by my wife, Lauren. She looks super happy to be here, too.
Sorry, yeah. I am very happy. Thank you for having me.
You're waiting until we get to the Avengers review part, Avengers Endgame review part. All right, so obviously, we're going to do a review of Avengers Endgame.
Sure.
Heroes. It's an old-fashioned notion.
A visionary, a genius, ensuring freedom around the globe.
A symbol to the nation, a hero to the world.
The beacon of hope, shining out across the stars.
I look around at us. You know what I see?
A bunch of a-holes.
Possibility. You think you know how the world works?
The world is changing.
We need heroes. Our very strength invites challenge. Challenge incites conflict. Conflict breeds catastrophe. The thing isn't beautiful because it lasts.
We're in the endgame now.
Before we're done, we still have one promise to keep. If you can't protect the Earth, you can be damn sure we'll avenge it.
Avengers Endgame is the culmination of 11 years of MCU, 22 films, and it all comes down to this. Every single thing that they've done has led up to both this and Infinity War. And I know we didn't get into, Infinity War and what are you watching, but yeah, we watched Infinity War again before we went to go see Endgame. So it all comes down to this, and it's so hard to give a synopsis for this, but it is the Avengers undoing what happened at the end of Infinity War and how they deal with that, how they form a plan, move forward,
and as they lead on to it, like mourning, the whole world mourning this loss and how we're dealing with it at the same time, and then also trying to figure out how to undo it.
Absolutely, and that's the way I don't, it's so hard to get into like reviewing like this story. I can just tell you that it's satisfying. Like it feels right. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
So as far as the story goes, it feels right. I do think that there were some story problems. There's kind of like two beginnings to this movie, and then like a middle and an end. Like, that's
right.
That's what it is.
Pretty much.
And
the flow was a little.
Yeah,
it wasn't smooth, but at the same time,
it definitely wasn't. No.
It's what do you expect? They had so many things they had to do.
The movie's story is tied together through character moments, and we had to say this to someone that we were at the wedding to last night because they were like, "Oh, we're gonna go see it, but we haven't seen Ant-Man and the Wasp or Captain Marvel," and I was like, "Then you're lost. I'm sorry.
To see them, right?
I know, like those are the two that people are at most would like to skip, but they're kind of integral to this story, and that's all I can say without being spoiler, since we're in non-spoilers here. So we will put up a big spoiler sound when we go into the spoiler section.
That is a very good point, because again, this movie is not going to work if you do not follow these movies.
Right.
Like, it's just not. You're going to miss the whole point of this movie.
Even
the way,
like
the emotions, the action, the fun.
Every character's, like, every big moment for every character is something that echoes back to something that happened along their timeline in the MCU. And that's just... but that's the way you do this. I mean, that's the whole reason why these 22 films have all been interconnected. That's the reason for it. And if you weren't taking the ride with them the whole way, then you're not getting the same out of this as you are with someone who took the ride the entire time, from beginning to end. And it works in that way where it's just... The story is basically a series of moments for each character, kind of paying homage to something that happened earlier on in their story, and then bookending their story, pretty much.
Right.
Sure.
And that's the only plus side to it.
And some surprising characters that are very important and essential to the through line story.
Yeah.
In this film that you wouldn't expect, and that's a spoiler. I can't say who exactly, but it's that was a surprise for me. I know, and I think Dave and I off air talked a lot about what theories that we had of ours, like what would happen, and we were very close. I think in many ways. And
you're talking about? Yeah, I know.
Well, I mean, we'll talk about it later. But
this is like
you can't say anything.
And I know most of the people that are listening to our review know exactly like either what we're talking about or are just waiting to get to the spoiler section. And this front section here is going to be pretty brief. There were a few moments where I felt like either it was the acting that was a little bit off, or it was just tonally off for me. And it is an exchange that's between Black Widow and Hawkeye. That to me felt a little bit off, and it's supposed to be a very big emotional scene, but leading up to that big emotional part, I wasn't with it. I wasn't buying it. There's like some jokey bits, and then they get super serious, and I was like,
I'm opposite of you.
Yeah.
I was with it. I bought it on.
And I'm on Lauren's side with that too. I was as well, and I think maybe Dave, because during that period of time in the movie, there were a lot of extended periods of time with other groups of people.
Right.
And then jumping from another group of people to another group of people. And then finally, when you catch up to them, it's kind of like it's thrown on your lap.
But
I went with it because you saw their character journeys throughout all these movies.
And that's what it is. You have to remember who they were.
Especially in this movie, but also previous movies.
Previous movies, right, exactly.
Yeah. So it worked for me. It did.
But, I mean, ultimately, the film is just perfectly satisfying. It looks
absolutely
absolutely gorgeous. The score was on point.
Yes.
It had this very melodramatic, like very low, very how do we, like, it's just a score like during that big, I guess not spoilers to say, the final battle. That's not spoilers. The Avengers fight people in this movie.
Right.
There are fights. Sorry to spoil that for everybody. I know how much everyone hates spoilers, but the music that they used there, it was so perfect. And when they bring up scores from past films, they bring it up at like the right moment, right? To really remind you that like it's this character's moment. So we're gonna drop this score there. Like when Cap is given some sort of gift, there is a score that plays that is from the first Avenger, which that stuff. And I gotta say, the Russos were on point in this movie with their pop culture references. There are tons of them. There's references to Indiana Jones, references to we can't say that because references to Indiana Jones, references to Star Wars, references to Aliens. He even references his
lots of other classics.
They reference Community because because Ken Jeong is there and he's playing the security guard. Right. And then we also saw Yvette Nicole Brown.
Yes,
they're both from Community. Now, just about every single character that was in Community has shown up in a Russo brothers MCU film. So that's kind of cool. I guess that's kind of spoilery. Sorry guys, I just dropped cameos. I guess that's a spoiler. I don't care.
And not just that, what you're saying in score, which was fantastic, but also the music choices. It was very surprising, and it was sprinkled throughout the movie, and I absolutely adored it. I think more than anything, the Russos have a very sensible film quality to their movies.
Absolutely.
They're not cookie cutter blockbuster movies. They are genuinely thought-provoking and emotional great movies, and they really pulled it off, I think, for me.
And they did a great job of balancing, once again, like they did with Infinity War, that heavy emotion that you want to feel, that you need to feel, having been on this journey for 22 movies. And then they also did a great job with just putting that humor in there too, and keeping that in line with what we would come to expect with MCU movies, so yeah, I gotta say, like, for the little nitpicks that I have, I would say it's few, and they are super minor. I would 100% say that this is an A+ movie. I think I gave Infinity War an A+ as well. I would say Endgame's an A+ also, but only for those that took the journey. Like, as if
that is true. And I also have some minor things, but it for me, which drops it down to a solid A.
Yeah.
Nobody that I know of who have seen this movie can say anything other than an A kind of category grade for this movie. I mean, it's fantastic. People really love it, and it ties everything together.
The only people who don't give it an A are the people that don't like the MCU, and the people that are still out there championing the DCEU and just being like, that's where real superheroes are made.
They're just morons.
No, they're not morons. They just like what they like, and they're a very vocal minority, but they're not morons. Lauren, what's your score for it?
Also an A+. This has been 11 years. Other than work, this is the longest relationship I have been in.
That's true. Yeah.
Like, it's literally, I'm like looking back, I'm like, oh, work. That's it. 11 years of the same thing in the same, and that's what I was telling you.
Yeah.
I was so sad to see it go, and I'm hoping that I can feel the same way about the second chapter of whatever.
Phase 4, yeah.
Right, of whatever they're going to bring to line. I don't think I'm going to like it as much, but
I don't think you can.
No.
I don't think you can. I hesitate to think that they're going to be able to capture lightning in a bottle again, like this.
You never know. They may give us another 11 years of great movies again.
It's possible. I think as a society, we will get fatigued on superhero films.
Right, maybe.
I think we're kind of reaching it. We all got to this point now, and part of me is just like, it's almost like what I did with comic books, where like there was a time where it's like I'm spending so much money on comic books, and what I started doing was I started waiting until creative teams that I like were on their last issue, and then a new creative team was coming in, which means there's going to be a big story shift and stuff.
Right.
And I'd be like, this is it. This is where I jump off. And that's how I started saving money, by not buying comics. And I almost feel like this is it. This is where I jump off. The Russos aren't coming back. They don't have any other films slated with the MCU. The MCU isn't really telling us what's coming next. The only thing we know that's coming next is Spider-Man Far From Home. And And other than that, like there's nothing else.
There's nothing, right?
So okay, like
I'm good with that. I could use a break.
I kind of feel like it's just like what Star Wars is doing. Where Star Wars is like, Episode 9's coming out, we're gonna take a break. We got some stuff that's gonna come to the Disney Plus. I think that's exactly what Marvel's gonna do. I think they're gonna take a break. We got some stuff coming to Disney Plus. Go check that stuff out. If we put movies out at the same time, then we're kind of cannibalizing our own market here.
Right.
So I think they're gonna see how everything does on Disney Plus. They're gonna come back in a couple years, re-gauge everyone, and I think the right thing to do though, moving forward with this, I know but none of this is spoilers, so we might as well just talk about it up here. The right thing to do here is to start over like you did the first time. Start small. Start with one character, and then just build from there.
Yep.
Don't try to
no remakes.
Right.
No remakes. Exactly. Absolutely no remakes.
Well, unless they're X-Men remakes.
Wolverine, snickety, snoring.
What he's doing is imitating Wolverine's berserker attack with his adamantium claws.
Never would have guessed.
All right, guys, you have your mission. Go forth and wreak havoc.
Yeah, no. X-Men can be remade, but I'm talking about MCU. No remakes. Leave it alone.
I don't think they would. I don't think, because it's still going to be part of the same universe. So remaking it would feel wrong.
Right.
But yeah, A+. How could you not give it that? I mean, I just feel like I know there's people with problems with it. And the only way that we can really address some of these problems is by getting into the spoilers. So let's hit that spoiler warning. Spoiler warning. Spoiler warning. Spoiler warning. So right off the bat, this movie just gut punches you.
Yes, it does.
It just says,
I love the cold open.
Fuck you. Fuck your sensibilities.
No. I do too. Yeah. And me and Dave were looking as soon as that, it starts with
This
Hawkeye.
is also the first beginning, by the way.
Right. Hawkeye teaching his daughter. Or practicing with his daughter at this point because she's already pretty good at it, shooting the arrow. And me and Dave, we looked at each other like, no, why would you do this?
Because in my mind, I already assumed that the whole family was decimated.
Right.
So I didn't think I needed to see this. And I thought that, like, as an audience, because we saw everyone else get decimated, we were done with this feeling. We were done with this emotion. And the Russos, like, hold this, like, funhouse mirror up to us. And it's like, look, it's hideous. Watch it again. It's like, no.
Yeah.
No, I think it was necessary, though.
I have children. I don't want to watch this.
Yeah, because
it had to get us back into that headspace of, and plus most of the first act is dealing with
you're right.
trauma.
That's exactly
everyone's dealing with. So we have it's a dark lull for everybody that's involved with this, and
that's what I love.
Everyone's dealing with it in different ways.
It's very strange to think that like half the world was decimated, half the universe, half of everything in the entire universe,
within minutes
is gone.
Right.
Thus giving everyone pretty much PTSD. Like everybody has some form of post-traumatic stress from losing so much at one time.
Right.
And we get this moment where they're all back. It's a couple weeks later. They're back in the Avengers compound and they're still reeling. And we see Tony Stark is still in the Benatar with Nebula. He calls her the Blue Meanie. I love that. And he's been talking to Pepper and he's just sick.
He's skinny. He's dehydrated.
Right.
He's hungry. Yeah.
22 Marvel films, 22 days in space.
22 days, yep.
And he's running out of food and air runs out and he leaves that final message that we saw in all the trailers to Pepper and he kind of lays down and that's it. He's dead.
Yeah.
Right. Like
he was ready. Right.
Right. He was ready. He gave his final message to Pepper. We saw that nice thing that Nebula did where he's eating and she's like, no, you.
Yeah. You need it. You need it more than me.
I'm more machine now than woman.
Right.
So,
right.
You eat it. And, he passes out. She puts her in the captain's. She puts him in the captain's chair and like a beacon. Like I love that. Like, and the first thing I thought of was little Anakin Skywalker. Are you an angel? Because Captain Marvel just comes out of the void to rescue them. You just see a
bright light in his face, right?
So a lot of people were wondering, like, how did Captain Marvel find him? What's going on? Like, how did this happen? The Russo brothers did say that the reason that they they didn't show Captain Marvel being given their coordinates was because we kind of already saw that in Captain Marvel. It's the end scene in Captain Marvel. She actually goes to Avengers compound first because she's following the beacon.
Right.
And they picked it up and took it there. And so she follows it there. She asks, "Where's Nick?" And they have been receiving his messages to Pepper.
Right.
Which is why Pepper is there when the Benatar lands and Captain Marvel's carrying it. Pepper's there to meet them because she's the one that told them the coordinates, and they sent Captain Marvel after him. So it wasn't just like in the vastness of space, she goes, "Wait a tick, what's that?"
Yeah.
And it flies it back in. She knew she was going after them. It was a rescue mission.
I don't think they did a good job showing that so much, but
They didn't
it's one of those
retread
things where
any
you
ground.
can read into that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
3 hours and 2 minutes. They didn't want to retread any ground, and to show the end scene from Captain Marvel
You didn't
again
have to. It
lead
worked.
to this.
I mean, there's a lot of times in this whole movie where things happen in that similar regard.
Exactly.
And it's fine.
But they land, and one of the things that I really liked about this land, it wasn't Tony being reintroduced to everybody. Forget that. It's Rocket sitting next to Nebula. And he pats her on the knee. And it reminded me of when Drax, when he's holding the twig of Groot from the first Guardians, and he's crying, and Drax puts his hand on his head and gives him a little pet. Rocket comes in, and remember, he's the captain. He said so.
Yeah.
And he taps Nebula on the knee, and she opens her hand, and they hold hands together. And they both just kind of like, they're it. That's all that's left of the Guardians.
Yep.
And I really liked that scene. Immediately after this, Tony Stark gave me my one of two laughs that he really gave me throughout the entire film. He is talking about how he got beat up, all this stuff, and Rocket kind of opens his mouth and he's like, "Yeah, there's a lot of that going around." Blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And he's like, "Up until this moment, I didn't even know you were alive. I thought you were a Build-A-Bear." Who says I'm not? I absolutely love that line. But then Tony suffering again. We see how human he is, and at times how weak he can be. Not only is he physically weak from dying, but he's also extremely upset. He's angry.
He's emotionally broken at this point.
And we've seen him like that before after he went into the wormhole.
Right.
After Avengers 1. He's back to that Tony.
Right.
And we thought he moved past the whole a suit of armor for the whole world. But here he is right here, and he's like, "Fuck you, Cap. I fucking told you we needed it.
Right.
You talked me out of it. And then you told me that we would lose together. Well, here we are. This is what losing together looks like. How's it feel?
It was a hell of a scene. It was powerful.
It was. And I do love where they go from this, though.
Right.
Where Captain Marvel's like, "I know where he is." And Rocket's like, "Yeah, we tracked the Infinity Stone signature to here." And everyone's like, "Fuck it.
Let's just go after him."
And I don't think they even planned on winning. I think they fully expected to go there and die. But if you're not going to die trying, then why?
They expected him to still have the glove in the stone so that they can just undo what he's just done. Right.
And we get like our first big, I would say, like shock of the film right here, because in the trailers we saw Thanos in the same shot walking through those fields, touching the fruit, very, very reminiscent of Gladiator and stuff like that.
Yeah, retiring.
But they tricked us with CGI in those trailers, because in the trailers the Infinity Gauntlet was fine, his arm was fine, and when we see him, his arm is diminished, it's burned, and the Infinity Gauntlet,
half his body is all the way up to his face is burnt and like gone, and and
the gauntlet is melted to his arm.
Right.
It is just melted there, and he can't remove it. He goes back in, and I love the way they get him. Like Bruce Banner in Veronica in the Hulkbuster armor comes out, grabs him, and then everyone comes around him, holds him down, and then they bring Captain America in. Like he comes in like a mafia don.
Right.
Yeah.
And they find out that the stones are gone. He burnt the stones by basically using the stones to destroy the stones.
Which is why he's all messed up and half dead now at this point.
He achieved his purpose.
Right.
And I liked what he said, where he's like, they serve no other purpose than temptation. So he destroyed them. And, everyone's calling him a liar, and Nebula's like, "No, my father may be many things, but he doesn't lie."
Right.
And we know that from Infinity War, he told Gamora that, lying, I never taught you that.
Right.
He isn't a liar, and Thor doesn't give a shit because he goes for the head. And
he definitely did.
For the first time, I would say in the MCU, there's what I would say, at least for this franchise, is gratuitous violence.
Yeah.
Because in the beheading, like you actually see like spurts of purple blood, like
and on Nebula's face,
and on like, and down goes Thanos,
and rolls over. And...
I mean, after they cut his arm off too. I mean,
wow,
they did Luke Skywalker the shit out of his hand.
But for some people, it's satisfying because people,
because at this point he doesn't have the stones anymore. So what's the use of keeping this guy alive?
So where do we go from here, like as an audience? Because the big bad's gone, and that's the way I was feeling. I was like, I'm still in that Empire Strikes Back mode. I'm still in like we lost. Like I'm still in that feeling of loss. And then I remember, and this is one of my favorite things about seeing this movie opening night with a crowd of people. 2 seconds, years later. And everybody went, like 5 years later. And that's where we get those shots of boats all parked around Ellis Island. And we find out that like most of the world's infrastructure is falling down. We're not picking ourselves up. We're not being productive anymore.
Yeah, we're not moving forward. We're
not to mention half of our working force is dead. But,
but again, it is hard to move on with that trauma. I mean, it's just one of those things where you're still seeing it reeling within all of our heroes as well,
And we see Captain America, and we talked about this in our Trailer Park breakdowns. We see him running a group therapy session, just like Sam used to do. Sam used to run these group therapy sessions. Sam's gone. He's doing the only thing he can to feel useful. And we get Joe Russo playing the first openly gay character in the MCU. It
was a nice little cameo.
Yeah, it took 22 films to
finally get him in there.
To get something in there. We also see Thanos' creator there in that meeting as well. But Captain America is telling everybody that, you just got to move on. We take it day by day, but we got to move on. Right. And then he goes and sees Natasha, goes and sees Black Widow. She's now kind of like head of S.H.I.E.L.D. She's running ops around the world because A, a lot of people are losing it. B, there's still some things going on out in the galaxy that needs cleaning up, and C, there might be a loose cannon out there that needs to be brought back in. Clint Barton is kind of going on a killing spree because, as Lauren put it earlier, she told me, with so many bad people that got to live, they're wasting their life by being bad people.
Right. And that's what he was pissed off about, that you have your shot now. Why do you still have to be a mob boss? Why do you still have to go out, kill people, rob people, whatever you're doing?
Right. My kids are dead.
Right.
Why did you earn life?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And if you're not doing anything with it, then you don't deserve it. And he's taking it away from them very, very brutally too. I kind of wish we saw that Mexican cartel like scene, because the way they described it, like the way like Rhodey's like, he's very shocked, or he's just like, this is not just
and even he doesn't. He was like, dude, just leave him be. Like, I don't even want to go after this guy.
I don't want to see him. I don't want to know. I don't want to know what Clint Barton's like now.
Right.
And of course, Captain America comes in and he sits down, and that's where we get that famous "not us." I'm telling everyone to move on, and everyone does their best. They're trying to move on, but not us.
Right.
And it's just, I love how down everything is right there. And that is that they get the call that Ant-Man is outside. I skipped over Ant-Man's part where a rat, I don't like this. I don't like this at all. In 14,608 possibilities or whatever it was.
This is how you get Ant-Man
That
back.
rat is probably the one thing that Doctor Strange needed to happen for this plan to go through. Why not use Michael Pena here? Why not have him not have been decimated?
I know, it would have
come in.
It would have been funny, right?
He gives us one of those awesome Michael Pena.
Yeah, I know, that's what you were hoping.
Okay, so here it is. Like this big purple dude came down from space, right? Like, why not give us that? Like,
yeah, that would have been funny.
I think they didn't do that because we needed to feel shock from Scott.
Right.
The second he goes out there,
right,
and he sees San Francisco
tonally,
destroyed.
it would have been off balance.
It would have been,
yeah.
But there's other things that are totally off balance in this movie.
I know.
But I do love him searching for his daughter's name.
Right, and the only Lang he finds
is himself.
Right, it's his name, right?
That moment was the first moment I started getting choked up when he sees Cassie Lang. And she opens the door and they just hug. No words, no anything. And it's just, he's been dead for 5 years. Her dad's been dead for 5 years.
Right.
So, of course, he, I guess, travels all the way to Avengers compound in probably record time in that La Cucaracha van. And he gets there, and this is where I was wrong in the trailers. I thought he was in 1983, 1993, because I knew that the year said something 3.
Right.
And I thought it was the past, and that's where they were going to find out about time travel and stuff like that.
Right.
Fuck no, wrong. 2023.
3.
I was wrong, dead wrong. And but he is there. He is out there in the compound.
Hey guys, we met a couple years ago. Ant-Man.
You gotta remember that, right? You gotta remember that, right? And then he's kind of like trying to collect his thoughts because he's not a smart man. He's not He's not a genius.
He's
smart
right.
Is that anyone's sandwich? Like, I'm starving. And then he kind of explains to them how time travel works and that you can do it through the quantum realm and you can go back, get the Infinity Stones, and we can solve this shit lickety fucking split.
Right.
And I like this plan. I like this idea. I like everything that they're doing here. I do feel like Scott Lang at times comes in with jokes at the wrong time.
Right.
I'm like, I get that that's supposed to be part of his charm, but at the same time, it also kind of takes away some other moments in the movie. Like by the end, they really diminish his role. Though he's not doing a whole lot. So they go to see Tony Stark because time travel is not as easy as just jumping into the quantum realm, jumping down a wormhole.
You need someone smart to help them out.
So they ask Tony, and we find out Tony Stark has a 5-year-old daughter named Morgan, or 4, whatever.
And they're living the good life. They have their own little.
Well, he said, maybe Barton had the right idea. Go buy a farm and live the simple life.
Right.
He's doing what Barton did.
Right.
So he's doing that, and the Avengers come to him and he kind of tells them like, no, I'm not going to mess with time travel. I'm fortunate. My family all lived. My family grew. If we go back and mess with time, you're going
to mess with my kid now. I may not have a kid anymore. He could lose
Morgan. And he tells them that they can stay for lunch. There's 6 places set. No talking shop. And everyone leaves. And of course, Tony Stark being Tony Stark, it's like they put an earworm into him.
Yeah,
it's like they started humming a tune and he couldn't get it out of his head.
Right.
And until he solved the problem they put in front of him.
And I think it like between them coming to his house, talking to him, and then him in the kitchen, and he's kind of like looking around, and then he sees that picture of him
Peter
and Peter together. Right. He's like, damn.
But also his father too.
Right. It's like I did lose other people. Like.
Yeah. And but the person he lost that he didn't need to. Like Howard Stark died.
Right.
That's unfortunate. The Winter Soldier did kill him, but that didn't come
but I think also
at the end of his failure, right? Tony Stark didn't fail for his father to die, but Tony Stark did fail Peter.
Yes.
And we know Tony Stark's not just hero complex, but also like he has this thing inside of him where he needs to fix everything that is his problem. Obadiah Stane was his problem. He tried to fix it. Terrorists were using his weapons. He tried to fix it. The world was messed up. He tried to make a suit of armor around the world. It was messed up. Ultron was born. He tried to fix it. Tony Stark is always trying to fix his last mistake. And when he sees Peter, he's right back there. This movie took every bit of growth that Iron Man had, reverted him back to where he was in Iron Man 3, and then had him start growing again because Tony Stark is the most human person in these movies. And that's the entire point of his character being there.
I agree.
You had something else to say.
Well, later on we see his very long cut scene with his father. When they do go back. But I think when I saw it the second time, I think we're seeing the picture of his father and him. I think he had a lot to live up to. I think he felt a little bit of the way his father was as a person. He always wanted to aspire to be.
Right.
And I think a little bit of plugging that information of time travel into him, he felt like he was not done. He wanted to continue on. His father would continue on. He wanted to keep on fighting a good fight. And what I
liked about, once he finally figures out, fuck, we can do it. It can be done. It's when he's talking to Pepper. And
what are you reading? A book about compost? Oh, what's new in the compost world? I solved it.
Yeah. But like when they have their moment together and Pepper is even like, no, you need to fix this.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like it is okay to fix this.
I just like their husband and wife dynamic because he did what I do to you. I ask you a question just so we can bring up a topic that I can cut you off on and then continue talking about what I want to talk about. Yeah. That's exactly what he did to her. And I was like, I'm fully aware of how that works. So with Iron Man saying no, they're left with only one other super smart guy that wasn't decimated. Right. And they go see the Hulk. And what a shock that was.
I know. Did you expect like opening scene and then you just see this green body? You're like, what the fuck?
He was so perfectly Mark Ruffalo.
Yes.
Like that face was so perfectly Mark Ruffalo, and the body was still Hulk. Not roid Hulk. No, not like super massive
Not super
Hulk.
big. Right.
Well, this is the first time they said that this is like new state-of-the-art technology.
It was
on screen.
fantastic.
No one's seen before, and it was.
It was really good.
It was really seamless. He was there as far as I'm concerned.
And it was a long scene, and it was a breath of fresh air because there was a lot of comedy elements into it.
I know, I'm wearing
and
clothes.
A lot of people were like chuckling and laughing.
Oh, I love the whole picture thing.
Hey, you want a picture of me? I'm Ant-Man.
I'm Ant-Man.
Oh, come on, get a picture with him.
Oh, come on.
No, they don't want a picture of me.
They want to take a picture. You want to take a picture with him, right? You want to, and the little girl's like, yeah, sure.
But so they do solve his problem. He saw the Hulk as a disease, and instead he decided to put himself. What do you say? He locked himself in a gamma chamber, like he bombarded his body with gamma rays for an extended period of time, and he just actually melded the Hulk and himself together.
Right.
And I gotta say, like in the beginning of this movie, Hulk is Smart Hulk, Professor Hulk, whatever you want to call him. Mm-hmm. He's one of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
Like I really love. This is the best Mark Ruffalo has been.
Yeah.
As this character.
Yeah. Absolutely.
100%. This and
he's got a lot to do.
He does.
And it's
early
effective.
On. Yeah.
It works.
And so anyway, they go back to Avengers compound. He's working out the time travel problem. And this is the thing that like I really wanted to talk about, because the time travel, right? We know that Tony figures it out, and he comes up with the chrono trigger for your hand and stuff like that. You set your time and you can actually navigate. It's basically GPS for the quantum realm. He figures that out based on the very little bit of data that they were left.
Right.
Whatever. But Hulk is trying to explain all of this and how Back to the Future is wrong.
Right.
And basically it's like the three-eyed raven says, the ink is dry. So the way it works, like they're talking about how, if you go back in time, it's going to change the future and stuff like that. But you can't change the future, because when you go back in time, the future is your past, and you can't change that either. So it's this very convoluted thing. But what can happen is that you can create alternate timelines, and we do see that when the Sorcerer Supreme, when the Ancient One is talking about it, and they do, they are going to take the stones out and irrevocably screw up time and create all these time rifts.
Right.
But when they return the stones, the time rift will go back together.
To fix itself.
But there's still important events that are being undone here that are creating branches in time.
Right.
When Loki escapes, new branch is made. Cap goes back in time, marries Peggy, probably another new branch.
Right.
And while their timeline may stay fine, other timelines are going to be changed, because Thanos was brought from 2014 up to 2023.
Right.
And now anything that he did or any of his people did when they get decimated, none of it's ever going to happen now. Mm-hmm. So some of that might mean that in some timelines, the Guardians of the Galaxy never get together. So there are going to be consequences to this, whether they choose to pick that up or not and use it later on in other films, we don't know. But there will be consequences to it, because they do talk that there are branching timelines, but their time stream stays solid, and they at least make sure that Thanos doesn't happen in those other timelines. But who knows what's going to happen after that.
Right.
So after trying to explain this, which I love Rhodey, when he's like, boom, why don't we just go back in time, find Thanos and the baby, and just...
Yeah.
Okay,
the notion of strangling a toddler baby.
Okay, that's dark.
Yeah.
Well, come on, we've all talked about doing that, like going back in time, just strangle Hitler, just
Thanos, we've all thought about that.
We've all thought about that, yeah. Thanos is worse. So then that's when Tony arrives, gives Cap back his shield, and tells him that Morgan was going to use that as a sled if he didn't get it out of there.
Right.
He solved time travel. They come up with the plan. They find out that 3 Infinity Stones were in New York in 2012.
Well, first, we need more men, because at this point, they still have to find Thor. Remember?
Yeah. Okay. So getting Thor back.
Yes.
Was an adventure. First off, I do love the little trip that they take. I love that it's everyone who's kind of like met with Thor before. So it's Rocket and it's Hulk. They both had adventures with Thor, Rocket in Infinity War, Hulk in Ragnarok.
It looked like a small little...
It's Asgard. It's New Asgard.
It's New Asgard.
It is New Asgard.
Right. In the comics, it was floating above Oklahoma, Braxton, Oklahoma. But here it is...
You know what it reminded me of? Aquaman's little fish town, right?
You're right.
It's in Norway because that is where Odin had said in the... That, maybe here. Why not start again here? It's, somewhere nice.
And I mean, Thor probably doesn't know much other places within this world where to land at. He's like... Dad picked out a spot.
But the Norse
already.
god, but it would stand to reason that at least people who used to worship him and it's part of their mythos,
right?
Would at least accept the Asgardians and continue giving offerings of beer to their god,
right?
So they meet with Valkyrie, and we find out Valkyrie. She lived with Korg, and we get to see Korg when they go see Thor. And the little kid on Fortnite is bothering him again, and Thor takes. He's just like, "You listen to me. This is Thor, God of Thunder." You tell me if he bothers you again. Thanks, Thor. Thanks.
This was not the shirtless Thor I wanted. Not at all.
We do get to see Thor shirtless, and man boobs were aplenty.
Wow.
I felt so much better about myself when watching this. Because, when you see Thor shirtless, you're just like, fuck, I don't even measure up as, like, a human being, let alone a man standing next to that guy. Like, that dude is pretty much a god of any, like, I guess Adonis. He's just perfect. And you see him here like this, and I was just like,
Chris
yes.
Evans,
yes. On a long enough timeline, anyone can succeed.
I think he developed a lot more fans after this.
I think so too.
This movie.
Yeah, I like Fat Thor. I'm sorry. I hope it's here to stay.
He's fun.
I hope it's here. He reminded me a lot of like Valstag from like.
I was
the original
still a little
Thor.
surprised that he stayed Fat Thor throughout the whole film.
What was he gonna do? Just like lightning down, and he's just like, look at this.
He's a god of thunder.
He only had to probably do like 20 push-ups, and he's like right back at it.
Look how trim
but
I am.
But at the same time, it makes sense. Again, like we said already, each character, him included, PTSD, and he was going through it throughout the whole film.
Right.
He was emotionally messed up the whole way.
I hear a lot of people like kind of like upset about like Fat Thor, where it's like not in the tongue-in-cheek way like Lauren is, like that's not the shirtless Thor I want, but there's people who are like upset that they're just like, why would you give me this Thor, like this broken Thor? And it's like clearly these people, and this I actually got this from our friend Sean Faust from What Does It Matter podcast. He's like, well, clearly like these are people who are saying this who have never seen clinical depression, because like that is what Thor's going through. He is he's clinically depressed.
He was the guy. If he had just gone for the head in the beginning, none of this would have happened.
Right.
And he's the strongest Avenger.
Strongest Avenger. So that's where they come up with the plan after this. And Tony Stark gets his second laugh of the movie. Last time I laugh at him.
Well, we still have to pick up.
Look out, Lebowski.
Yeah.
On your left, Lebowski.
But yeah, Natasha goes after Barton.
Yeah, that was very brief. Very brief.
It was.
They hold hands in the rain.
Well, because...
And then they go back to Avengers compound. Like, it was not given the same type of fanfare that Thor was given.
No. It wasn't No.
It was a cool one-take action scene, though.
Yeah.
Going up and down and into that little rainy, Tokyo kind of lit setting. But
that's
they're both assassins. I mean, she understands his mindset because she used to do what he is doing.
It's the reverse. He was once sent to kill her and found her and saw something in her and made her who she is now, or helped her become who she is now. Here he is lost and in a very similar situation as she was back when she was the Black Widow for Russia, and she's extending the hand now. So they're like they're switching roles here, but. That scene for me, like, it was just, I guess because you can always say like, oh, they've been friends for so long. That's why like it's just a look, that's all he needs. Like they had a conversation just without basically talking.
They've been through a lot.
Yeah. Budapest, which gets mentioned again. So I hope in the Black Widow prequel, we get a Budapest scene. At least that's its end credit scene is Budapest. Anyway, so the plan. Now's the plan. Yeah. Now's the plan. Fat Thor. I do love when he's like, Thor's the only one that came in contact with the Reality Stone. Thor, would you like to enlighten everybody on the Reality Stone? Thor, is he sleeping? I think he's dead. Rocket I think he's dead.
He's sitting in the corner, shades down.
All right, first off, you all got it wrong. It's more like a sludge, not a stone. Cap caught on the stone. And then he takes his sunglasses off, and I love it. He just like puts Visine in his one eye.
Yeah, because the other eye's that robotic eye. That
but he's like totally stoner. Like they're really playing into like that Lebowski thing.
Yeah.
And then
he just completely goes off the rails. He starts talking about Jane.
Ex-flame of mine.
She took the stone in her. Stone came out of her.
So I do love that. But this is where they figure out 3 stones in New York in 2012.
Natasha figured out.
That's right.
There are 3 stones.
That's true.
They were all sitting there talking.
If we play our cards right.
She was laying, when she was laying on the table with Tony.
Now, they don't know that Doctor Strange
right.
wasn't a Sorcerer Supreme then.
Right. That's what they did not know.
So they got
right.
fucking lucky that she happened to be on Beaker Street that day.
Right.
It's true.
But it also answers the question when everyone's like, oh, well, if there was a Sorcerer Supreme in New York at the time of Avengers 1, why weren't they helping? Well,
right.
motherfucker, they were.
They were, yep.
So there's the time stone that's there. Obviously, the Tesseract is there. And then, again, obviously, the Mind Stone is there because it was in Loki's scepter. So. Right. So that's one team of Avengers going there after that. The other team is going to go to Vormir. Mm-hmm. And to, I can't remember the name of the planet, but where Peter Quill went to get the Power Stone in the first one. And then the other team is just Rocket and Thor. And they're just going to saunter through Asgard.
They're going to Asgard, right.
And poke Jane with this thingy and suck the thingy out of her.
I mean, before we get into it, but this is like when the movie starts to shift.
Right.
This is when it shifts into that big
not
second
dark.
act.
It's not dark anymore.
Right. Now we're going into the big periods of time with each groupings trying to get these stones. And so about Jane, wow. Like literally you see Natalie Portman rise up from the bed. That's it. That's her whole cameo. It just goes to show that she really had no interest in this franchise whatsoever.
Like a cartoon sneaking up behind her, like with the thing raised over his head. Like he's just going to stab her and run. Thor does get a meet up with his mommy here, with Renee Russo, and she has more lines in this movie than she did in two Thor films combined.
Right.
Yeah. So crazy. But
it was great though.
It also is a moment where Thor believes in himself again.
Right.
Because he does that, he holds his arm out and he waits, and like you're waiting for it too. And
right.
And then like Renee Russo, sometimes it takes a minute, sometimes, and it comes to him. I picture
like, what is he doing?
I pictured there is a Thor. There is another Thor somewhere on Asgard at that time who literally just got his Mjolnir ripped out of his out of his hand. He's like, what the? And he absconds.
What about this hammer? What is this hammer thing? And like, wait, hold on, something's not right.
Oh, my hammer!
Another Thor needs me at this point.
So he gets his hammer back,
right?
And they leave. Now the Reality Stone's been grabbed. So I don't want to. I'll get to Vormir after this. They go to the planet that
Peter Quill
was on, and I'll skip a bunch of stuff here.
It
but
starts with the music,
right?
I love it.
Dun 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 dun. Dun, dun, and he's singing, and you're with it, and it's the opening credits of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right. And that's exactly it. The music cuts, and they're singing Rhodey and Nebula's like,
so he's an idiot.
Yes. Come and get your love.
And he just like clocks him on the head. He just hits the ground, and they go steal the Power Stone from him, leave him just knocked out, laying in the middle of this planet, and go off. And then we get the New York stuff, which was hands down my favorite of these, little time travel trips, because it's Hulk, Captain America.
Well, it's starting with the scene from
Tony
the
Stark,
first Avengers.
Yeah.
Like, it was amazing.
Hulk smash, and he goes off. And me and Lauren noticed something when we just watched it today.
Yes.
One of the Chitauri gets a car smashed on top of him, and Hulk punches the car, and there's a Chitauri pointing a gun at the Hulk.
And he's like, nope.
And the Chitauri runs away. And the Hulk jumps after him.
Yeah.
And then that's when Captain America's like, all right, so we're gonna go up there, we're gonna get the stones. And he's like, Hulk, you're gonna go after the time stone. He's like, and
you're gonna have to smash.
You're gonna have to smash. And he's like, so gratuitous.
I know, and he like rips off his shirt. He's like,
So Hulk goes up, and that's where he meets the Ancient One, and he asks for the Time Stone. He
asked for Doctor Strange.
Well, right.
And she's like, "Oh, you're 5 years too early. He's in surgery right now,
right over there."
Right.
But this is where we learn about the time stream and why the stones are going to need to be returned. After she does that awesome chakra thrust to his chest, where she's just like, Hulk means nothing to me. And he does drop that line. He's like, if this is so important, why would Strange give it up?
Right.
And she's like,
but it was also another good scene showing, as far as the timeline or time travel kind of thing with the stones,
right?
And how
which
she explained
answers most of the questions by the time we got to the end of the movie.
I got a lot of other questions.
Some I know, not all, but it answered some.
Where's the Flurkin? That's what I want to know. Where's Goose? Because if you had Goose on that battlefield towards the end, Thanos comes running out and he's just like, I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Thanos is gone. Thanks, Flurkin.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's why you can't have a doomsday weapon like the Flurkin on the battlefield. Anyway, so then we get Captain America going after the scepter.
Right.
And he goes to, and this is the first time, I love this, first time Captain America curses.
Right.
He sees himself and he goes, "Are you shitting me?"
You even before then, before he sees himself, it was the elevator scene, and we're like, fuck yeah, elevator battle.
Oh, yeah.
And then nothing. I mean, it was funny the way they did it.
But what was great was that is an homage to Captain America 2 or 3 years ago, where his timeline got messed up and he was actually a Hydra secret agent. And there was a big thing online with memes and stuff of Captain America saying "Hell Hydra." That was a big thing.
Right.
So he whispers "Hell Hydra."
Well, he made fun of that, but also it's within his character because he doesn't want to hurt people unless he has to, and he knew a way because he knew the outcome. He knew a way how to get out of it without hurting them.
Yeah. Yeah. And also he can't fuck them up too bad because they still have to fuck him up again in Winter Soldier. So so he does see himself. The first time he curses, "Are you shitting me?" And then they fight. And I love the moment that he knocks, they both get knocked down, and the other Captain America from 2012 is getting up. He's like, "I can do this. I know
all day.
I know." And they fight. And of course, he was complimented earlier on that, even though Tony Stark was making fun of his 2012 Avengers outfit, that it made his butt look weird. He's like, I don't care what they say.
It wasn't doing anything to do with your ass. And then
that's a nice butt. Like, that's America's butt.
That's America's ass.
He knocks himself out. I love when he looks at it. He's like, that is America's ass. Captain America's grown a lot. First off, just him cursing, number one, is kind of like a growth.
It is.
In a way.
He's becoming more human.
Yeah. And, I think there's nothing more human than failing. I don't think he's failed before, but he's never failed like that.
Right.
So yeah, he's just kind of like the a looser Captain America. I think he's also, I don't want to say confident, but there's nothing to lose now. There's nothing to leave on the table.
And he can still deliver a hell of a speech.
Yeah,
absolutely. A lot of pep talks. Great pep talks.
He's good at that. Yeah, I know, right? And then we get Ant-Man and Iron Man going after.
Yeah, so this was before the Captain America scene.
Going after the space stone.
Once Captain America saw Captain America, we thought, he thought that was Loki who escaped.
So Ant-Man shrinks down, does that Axe body spray. I keep a can on me in case of emergencies. And he goes into Tony Stark's arc reactor. He pulls the plug, gives him a cardiac arrhythmia.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is. Who cares? I'm not a medical guy. But my favorite part of this is when Thor puts the hammer up to his chest and he's just like, I don't know if this is going to work. I've never done this before. He taps it. He's like, it worked.
I didn't think it was going to work.
Where's the box? Oh, shit.
I know what? I love that. So he drops the box and Ant-Man pushes it towards Tony, and Loki is the only one who saw this. Loki's like, the fuck just happened?
And before that, when Tony Stark was up in the penthouse of Stark Tower, they're all getting in the elevator after capturing Loki.
This is how everything got fucked up.
And Hulk goes to get in, like, whoa, buddy. Occupancy.
I know what? It was funny because, obviously the first time we watched it, I'm not looking at everyone. So the second time I watched that scene again, I just see Loki waving bye to him.
Well, that's after he got smashed.
Yeah.
Take the stairs. So many stairs.
But yeah, me and you said the same thing. Why didn't you just jump down? At this point, you don't care that you just create a ginormous hole in the floor of the stairs.
Flash to Tony carrying the case, and he's going to go up the stairs and go up to the roof, fly off as Iron Man, bing, bang, boom, mission complete. Hulk reaches the bottom of his endless stairs. Remind me when we get to the 30th floor, I'm going to throw up. And Hulk just smashes the door open and knocks Tony down, and there goes the space stone in Loki's hand. It's gone, and that's a time branch. Now Loki never dies in that timeline. Loki never dies, which is where I think a lot of these Disney Plus shows are going to take place in that alternate timeline.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think it's very possible.
Right.
So now they failed to get the space stone. So now Tony and Steve have to go back in time to 1970. Tony gets the wonderful meeting with his father, and I do like how it's awkward, but it's also like fitting. You know, he really finds out that as much as he's failed, his father felt like a failure too.
Right.
And it's one of those things that where he had put his father on a pedestal for so long, and he thought his father was not perfect, but just did everything that Tony does, but did it better. And I think here he realizes that
humanity in his father,
but
in a different way, because he was talking to him as a person.
I think Tony also realized he does do one thing better than his dad did. Tony does fatherhood better than his dad did. I think that's what Tony realized, and not only that, but he does see the human side of his father, and that gives him some relief about his own life
and upbringing,
and allows him to move on. So they did go to where Captain America was made at Fort Bragg in New Jersey, I think it was, and they get off with the time stone and more Pym particles so that they can continue time traveling. Because we see the de-aged Pym in there too, Hank Pym.
Right.
And Captain America sees Peggy briefly and says nothing. Also, Captain America's name plaque there says Roscoe. Roscoe was the name of the guy that took over Captain America in the 80s when Captain America was off playing Nomad, where he didn't want to be Captain America.
Fact.
So, yeah, a little Easter egg there for you. Go. Anyway, so now everybody is about to return, but Nebula has her little freak out.
Right.
We know that quantum entanglement is a thing. So 2014 Nebula and 2023 Nebula are on the same neural network, according to Ebony Maw. But also we know that quantum entanglement is a thing because when Scott Lang was in the quantum realm, he got quantumly entangled with Michelle Pfeiffer's Janet Van Dyne. So that's kind of like what's going on here with Nebula, and they're each able to see each other's memories and what's going on.
Right.
And this is where Thanos becomes aware of the Avengers' plans to undo what he was trying to do and actually did, but now he has to make sure that it happens so that he does what he does. But now he's reaffirmed in the fact that since I did it and they are still coming, and humanity is still coming for me, then I'm going to need to do it again, but do it better
and
strip
make it
down
permanent for these guys.
Yeah, he pretty much says he's going to strip it down to the very atom, and he's going to start the Big Bang over again.
Right.
And he's going to do it all from the beginning, and that's where he gets his whole plan to do it, because he's watching Nebula on the vid screen stuff, which is you know, as far as like a plot device goes, I guess this is how you got to get him back into the fray.
Right.
Like this is how you
and that's what I was leading to about earlier. It's like Nebula, I didn't expect her role to be so large and so important throughout the through line
in
of
the
this
original
story.
Infinity War. Her role is very important because she's the one who gets the Infinity Gauntlet from him, and uses it. So she was actually the final hero, like the big hero in the original Infinity War. So that's probably why she's so big here. But
now this is also a way to bring in Gamora, who died in Infinity War.
Yeah,
exactly. So it makes it story-wise, it makes sense and stuff like that. It just, anytime they try to explain things science-wise in this movie,
it's kind of like a stall pattern.
They don't have enough time to explain it to where everybody in the audience is like,
you gotta go with it.
But it's also this type of movie where it's like, fuck it, I'm gonna go with it.
Yeah.
And then finally, Voromir. Now we get to Voromir, and of course,
at this point, everyone knew someone's walking
away.
Right.
And I knew that the second I saw Vormir on the list, because it's the only stone that didn't travel anywhere else. All the rest of them were collected and moved around, but the Soul Stone had only ever been on Vormir.
Right.
And they go there, and of course, the big thing: who's going to sacrifice themselves?
Right, and I guess
Hawkeye or Black Widow.
And the original plan was like, don't worry, we can just bring ourselves back.
Right.
But then he and what's his face, Red Skull's like, no, that's not how this works.
No, that's not how these work.
This is permanent. This is permanent.
The ultimate sacrifice.
Right. So this is the scene that I wasn't like crazy about.
Oh my God, I was. You knew I was.
Lauren and I were, and we went with it.
Every time, like, I've seen it twice now, and like, just the back and forth between them, like, there's kind of like Hawkeye's like almost smiling, or he's like, no, you're not gonna go. Like, I'm gonna go. And it's like, fight. It's like, and they just start fighting, and I get it. That's a big callback to like Civil War as well, where it's like, they're friends, and I will say
it's just within their characters. Like, to me, like, that it all fit.
It did get me. Like, when Hawkeye jumped, like, part of me was like, I do love Hawkeye. I do think, especially in Age of Ultron, he's one of the few characters I like in Age of Ultron. And he jumps off. But at the same time, I was like, it's fitting. I mean, he went down this dark path, and he hadn't found his...
And I think that's why he was willing.
Right.
Obviously, he's not going to allow his friend to kill herself for him, but at the same time, he's like, dude, I'm not the same guy anymore.
Redemption, like, and I was like, all right, redemptive path and stuff like that. Meanwhile, Black Widow, she's been on her redemptive path, and she's come on the other end of it.
Black Widow's like, I don't have a family. The only family I have is you guys,
and she's fighting to bring back his family, so he can have another shot with his family too one day. Hopefully.
And then boom, brings them back, and she goes over. It's the hand holding the hand, but she's not holding on. Then it just lets her go.
Yep, and he's trying to reach to grab something else to grab her, and he can't do it.
He can't reach it.
All right. So they all return. Nebula.
It was the first moment tears came down.
Oh my God.
It was one of five. One of five times
in that movie.
I was like raining tears out of, like, there were other scenes where, just a little tear here and there, wipe it off. No, this was like ugly cry. It's true. The start of my headache because I was so dehydrated to begin with.
Because you didn't want to pee. I did the same thing. Right. I didn't want to pee at all either throughout the movie.
Dude, it got to the point where like first I had to I was like pinching, like, I was kegling, like keeping my pee hole closed a little bit. And then towards the beginning of the final fight, like it was like full on, like I can't laugh or cry too hard or pee will come out.
You ruined it for yourself.
So anyway, of course, Black Widow's dead. We kind of have to rush to the end here, so because we're running a little long here. Black Widow's dead. Hawkeye wakes up in the water just like Thanos did. Everyone returns back, and the nebula that comes back is not the nebula from 2023. It's the nebula from 2014. And this is a plot hole that people are saying, like, well, if she only had one Pym particle vial, how did she get back to 2023? And then Thanos came through after that
because she opened it.
She went back. She took, as
everyone else is in their own little huddle trying to figure out how to use the stones
out of Captain America's case, where he stole them from Pym in 1970. She grabs it.
She's right, exactly. She's at the time machine, and she's bringing everyone in at this point.
Yeah. And this is where the final battle happens. Man, pretty much. They do make an Infinity Gauntlet out of Stark's nanotechnology. Hulk is the only one who can take it because he's 90% gamma radiation anyway. It reminds me of Futurama.
The fossil only has a chance because it's made of dolomite. I'm 40% dolomite.
So like he snaps his fingers, he undoes everything Thanos did, and he did try to bring back Black Widow though. He realized it didn't work.
Right.
And we have a sense of peace and happiness for about 5 to 10 seconds.
Well, Hawkeye's wife calls him. Because she's like,
right.
And that got me. That was a moment where I was like, oh God.
Well, because it starts with Ant-Man. He's looking outside.
And there's birds.
There's birds. Everything.
What got me was there was one bird, and then more birds showed up.
Right. And it just had a feel in the air, like something was right. Everything was back. And then you see Hawkeye's phone is ringing.
And then you knew it definitely did work.
Right.
So Thanos' ship comes out of the quantum tube, goes up into the air, becomes real big. He comes down, and they just start firing on Avengers compound. Everyone's buried in rubble, and Hawkeye gets they start playing past the football. Hawkeye gets the gauntlet, and everyone else is rescuing each other. Ant-Man comes in, he rescues Rocket, Hulk, and Rhodey by getting really, really big and putting them in his hand and letting him go. Hawkeye goes through some tunnels here, and we get our Russo homage to Aliens as he turns around and he's pulling his arrow back and he shines the light down. There's all of the like those four-armed black it's coming down. It's like that's just like Aliens when they look into the drop ceiling.
And the lighting and the action of it all.
So he gets away. Gamora turns on
2014
Nebula, and Nebula 2023 Nebula turns on 2014 Nebula, shoots her. She doesn't disappear, proving that Back to the Future lied.
Right.
Because she shoots her past self and doesn't disappear immediately. And this is the beginning of like my favorite like sequence of the movie. It's Captain America, Thor, and Iron Man, and he asks what Thanos is doing. And he's like, he's just sitting there.
He's nothing.
And he's like, should we go after him? He's like, it's a trap.
It's a trap, right.
And I love Iron Man when he's just like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Good. We're all in agreement.
I know. And then you see the lightning strike coming down. So
and the fight is visceral, just off the get-go. And they're beating the living hell out of each other. Iron Man, takes his crack. Thor takes his crack. And Thor is pinned down and Thanos is shoving that axe.
Right.
About to go through his chest.
Yeah, he's like almost getting through to his heart.
And in my head, I was expecting Thor to do a thing where he's like, you should have went for the head. And Mjolnir was going to come in and boom, bang Thanos on the head, and we would continue our fight.
But we got something better.
And I saw the hammer lifting, and I was like, boom, here it comes. He's going to bash him in the head with it. And then, just like in Star Wars The Force Awakens, when they're both reaching for the saber and you see it move and it goes to Rey.
Right.
That's exactly what they did here. It goes up, it hits Thanos, and it comes back and Cap catches it.
Yes.
And I hear a lot of people asking, how was Cap able to control it now? He tried to pick it up in Age of Ultron. Like, Cap was holding on to a dark secret at the beginning of Age of Ultron.
Right.
He knew that Winter Soldier had killed Tony Stark's family, and he was keeping that secret. Now that secret's out. His soul is clean. And
he finally admitted it to Tony.
And he says shit and ass now, He's a fully formed human being at this point. He's worthy. He is worthy.
That was tears number 2.
Dude, that was the first time where I was like, oh, I've been waiting for this in these movies ever since he touched that hammer. I mean,
and slightly nudged it. Moved it.
Throwing that look of shock on his face.
But even Thor was so happy.
He was. I knew it. And Captain America, like, he doesn't just use the hammer. Like, he wields it like a boss. Like he's whipping it around.
He's calling the lightning and using it all different kind of ways. It was with his shield.
He
was
totally
really cool.
picked up some tricks from Thor.
Actually, my favorite thing that he does is he throws the shield like a frisbee.
Right.
And as it's making its return, he throws
the hammer
at it, and it hits it. And we know that from Avengers 1, when you hit the hammer to the shield, everything gets knocked
vibrates,
down.
Right.
Yeah. So, and boom, down goes Thanos, and then up comes Thanos, and he breaks the shield, destroys Cap, and Cap is left bruised and bleeding and practically broken.
Yep.
And it's the moment where I was like, is he going to get up? And I'm not even sure Cap knew he was going to get up.
Right. And this was the moment where I'm like, what now?
Yeah.
What? Because then you see Thanos' army, they're all coming down. And then that's when Thanos is like, no, I'm going to destroy everything.
And I'm going to enjoy it too.
Yeah, his entire army, the ships, the
not only tired of our planet.
The worm ships, I like to call them.
The Leviathans, yeah. So he doesn't take pleasure in halving the universe when he did that. He's not even going to take pleasure in reducing this universe down to a single atom and then rebuilding from there. He's not even going to take pleasure in that. But he is going to take pleasure in this pesky backwater planet with these heroes on it that have been a thorn in his side now. And he's going to take pleasure in that. And Cap, he gets up, and I love that strap it closer.
Tightens his shield.
It's broken. His arm is like almost like cut down to the bone. It's bleeding, and he pulls it closer, and I like the way you put it, Jay, when you said he was walking towards Thanos and the army.
I immediately thought it reminded me of the Battle of the Bastards when Jon Snow is by himself in the field and his army is charging towards him, and it was the same kind of thing, just different camera angle.
Right.
Yeah.
And then suddenly...
And Sam greets him in the only way Sam can. On your left, which, like, you know, that's
Callback,
that's
right.
Winter Soldier,
Right.
you know, when Captain America's running around on your left.
The opening scene.
And, like, this is the moment where, like, we see Doctor Strange's circles. And we don't see Sam at first. We see Black Panther.
Yep.
And... I love this part because the lady next to me, her and her husband, all I hear is and I was like, oh my God. And like they were chanting, other people were chanting it too as he's coming through. And then Sam comes flying in. Everyone who was dead is back. Spider-Man comes in and got way too much cheers in our theater than I thought he deserved.
Tears number 3 when all these people were coming in, you know, back into this world to help out fight.
I guess I don't know how else to put it. Like Captain America, he got his balls back. Like he's confident again, and
hope, right?
Yeah,
because he's finally like, oh, thank God, like we could win
there's
this
a chance.
right now.
He calls the hammer back to him, and we get it for the first time in the series. Avengers assemble.
Yeah.
Everybody flies off. The music plays.
Tears number 4.
Everybody who's ever been there except for Luke Cage and Daredevil. Everybody's there. And the fight goes on and they play past the football with the gauntlet.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
It was, everybody got like a small moment to shine except
and all
for
the girls
Hulk.
too.
Except for the Hulk.
And the Hulk.
But the Hulk, you know, he has that diminished baby hand now. He's kind of like got his Deadpool hand.
I know. What is he going? He just had that scene where it's like, we have to get it back to the van.
So like the Hulk is going to have to, whatever movie he appears in, he's going to need a training montage to build that arm back up.
Yeah.
We need a montage. And there's just so much that happens here. It's you can't sit here and point out all the cool stuff that happens, but there is
it'll be another hour and a half.
A ton of just fan service, a ton of stuff. And I know a lot of people complain about all the ladies like getting together.
Right. It's a forced scene, but it's a scene we kind of need
Two things.
What is your take, Lauren? I mean,
I loved it. Are you kidding me?
No, I loved it too. So it's
absolutely loved it.
It plays homage to Infinity War when, you know, you're going to take me on alone. She's not alone.
Right.
And then the 3 women take on one of the daughters of Thanos. It's an homage to that. But also, like, for all these people who are saying, like, you know, we want to see a change in Hollywood. We want to see people of color in hero roles. We want to see women portrayed in a strong way and stuff like that. It's done here, and sure, it's done in a ham-fisted way, but at least it's done. Sure, you know, but this is how it has to start. Like,
and it was good. It was fun.
And it has to start in this fan service type way because, you know, my daughter doesn't think this is cheesy when she watches a movie like this.
Right.
This is awesome. This is all these girls together, all these powerful girls, and Pepper Potts is there too. She was reading a book about compost before she put that damn armor on. She was a stay-at-home mom before she put that armor on. Now she's super, you know, and that's what I loved about it, you know. And like, I know a lot of people were also pissed off about like the fan service that like Black Panther's the first one to come out and he's the one that brings the army, and like there's this. Who cares?
Right.
Who cares? Him and Captain Marvel are the ones that are going to be carrying this franchise further anyway.
And so
they need the fan service.
Right, exactly. And speaking of Captain Marvel, why wasn't she there in the beginning? Oh, that's right, because saw what she did to their ship. Like,
oh yeah.
Because if she was there in the beginning, we wouldn't have this huge.
Well, she said she wasn't going to come back. So I don't know how they got a message to her to come back, but she decided to come back. Maybe she did find Thanos and she did find out where he went, so she went back there.
At this point, Nick Fury's back.
That's true. So
another signal to her.
It's possible.
Send her a text. It's like, well, we got to wait like 2 hours. That's how long it takes for you to send. But yeah, so she comes back, and that's why Captain Marvel was so important, because we need to see how she can take down that ship so easily.
Right.
So Thanos basically throws a spear, throws his broken sword, double-edged sword, into the van, destroys the van.
Right.
We do get Spider-Man putting his instant kill protocol on.
Yes, that
which
was
is something that happens in Avengers Homecoming. I'm sorry, Spider-Man Homecoming.
Right.
And he's like, no, not that. Yeah. He does it here. And the gauntlet is out there, and Captain Marvel lands, and she beats the living hell out of Thanos. Like, there was no way he stood a chance against her.
No.
Until he grabbed that Power Stone and put it in his fist.
I loved it when he he punched her in the face and not even
he headbutted her.
Oh, is that what it was? A headbutt?
She just smiled at him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
come on, man.
And then of course this is the moment where Tony Stark wants to know if this was the 14 million and one. He asked before, and he said, "If I tell you, Doctor Strange told him, if I tell you, then it won't happen."
And then he's looking at Doctor Strange again, and you just see his finger go up.
Shaking. He just like, this is it.
This is it.
This is the one.
Right.
And because we know that Tony is the guy that cuts the wire. He doesn't lay down the wire so the guy can crawl over him. He cuts the wire.
Right.
And
because at this point, you're losing hope all over again. Yep. You had all this momentum, all this hope coming out, and now you just saw your strongest, the strongest Avenger just get knocked out. Yeah. Like, now she's out.
So here we go. What do we do? Like, what do we...
Right.
Tony can't lose again. He can't see his friends lose again. And he goes up, grabs Thanos by the hand, and steals like a filthy little pickpocket.
Yeah.
He steals all those out. And I love that because the line before that was, "I am inevitable."
Right. Yeah, and that's all you hear, just a click.
Nothing.
And then it's like, like the theater broke out.
Yeah. And, you tells him that he is Iron Man, ending this series where it began with Iron Man, and snaps his fingers.
Yeah, it's poignant.
Everyone's decimated. And then the people who are closest to Tony have to say goodbye to him. And Spider-Man, get out. Let his wife say goodbye to him, for Christ's sakes. He's fading quick. let his wife give him something here. And they won, but they lost so much. And I think the whole point is we as fans, as an audience, we just lost something too.
Yeah.
And here we are going into Game of Thrones. We do really need to pray for Starks this weekend because we already lost one.
We really do.
We lost one already. The funeral scene. What do you guys think of the funeral scene? I have a theory about the funeral scene.
That was my fifth tier moment. Yeah, I absolutely
was it
loved
the funeral scene, or was it proof that Tony Stark has a heart being pushed out?
Well, that was the beginning of it, and then when it started to pan through all the people, I'm like, oh god, because it really just the music, the score, and just being able to see everybody one last time, in their own, like Dave mentioned before. Just in their groupings of potential future installments in the
That's
Disney
the way I
Plus.
saw it.
It's a good possibility.
I saw Hulk standing with Doctor Strange, and I think there's a relationship between them in the comics. I think
which would be a lot of fun.
I think there might be something there with those two. We see the Guardians all together over there, and then behind them we see Sam, Scarlet Witch, and
Bucky
right, all together. They both have Disney Plus streaming service shows coming. All two of them. And then we see Hawkeye with his family, which is fitting. But he also has Disney Plus coming. And then in the back row, I mean, we do see the little boy from Tennessee from Iron Man 3 standing off over there by
which
himself.
I did not know.
Yeah.
So
Dave
that was
knew
a fun
exactly
little
who
thing.
he was right away.
Yeah. I figured he's the only kid that would be that age and standing there by himself. I guess his mom couldn't make the trip. But anyway, then they go back and we see Captain Marvel on the stairs in the back because she didn't know Tony Stark that well, and Nick Fury there with her. They're going to continue on into their. So I saw them all as being in these groups because these are the ones that are going to move on. But where was Captain America? He was with the Iron Man family. He was
standing right behind Pepper.
Not going to be going on because we get his scene where
just slightly ahead of Peter Parker.
Yeah, just slightly ahead of Peter Parker.
Right.
So he is going. He's going to be the one that returns all the stones, and they send him off, and he's supposed to come back within seconds. And he comes back, but
he skipped his
landing point because he didn't land on his landing point.
Right.
He chose.
No, he chose
to stay.
He just lived his life and walked up to that park bench, sat down, started feeding pigeons, and was just like, "Oh, you guys are here! Oh, yeah, you guys are here!" Hi. And then as Sean
waiting here all day,
as Sean Faust from What Does It Matter podcast calls it, Eastwood cap, because he looks like Clint Eastwood a little bit. He's an old man.
He's a dashing stoic, and it was just. It was so heartwarming for me, and I think he deserved it. Everything he's been through, he succeeded, and he deserved a life, like you said. And then what happened after that was surprising. I think it was nice.
I think he saw what Hawkeye had in Age of Ultron, and kind of regretted what he lost with Peggy. And then he saw Tony go out there and get that life too.
Right.
And there in 2023, there was no life for him. There was no one there. I guess he gave up on Sharon Carter. He doesn't need her. That was a one-time thing. Maybe he just thought it was too creepy to be sleeping with Peggy's niece. So he went back in time and he made his own Sharon Carter with Peggy. No, he went and lived his life, man.
Yeah.
And he finally gave his girl a dance.
Yep.
And I think he couldn't resist it. He had to go see her, and once he was there, he couldn't leave.
Right.
Yeah, he left the world in good hands. He inspired all those people, along with Tony, who are now picking up the mantle and continuing on as Avengers. And there's no reason for him to be here anymore. As much as I love Captain America, as much as he's my favorite character, and I want more stories with him, with this being his ending, I don't want any more stories with him.
Right. I agree.
I think this is proper.
And Chris Evans was a perfect captain.
Yeah, he was.
So it was great to see. And now, it was a surprising, but I think fitting choice for him to give it to Sam.
Yeah,
he has always been an honorable guy.
Said Sam's Captain America in the comics, right?
Both Sam and Bucky have been Captain America in the comics, but
Bucky gives the nod, saying "Go ahead."
Yeah, it's you, and I think that's the right call. I think that Sam moving forward as Captain America is the right call. If it's Bucky, then it's, I don't want to say tainted, because it's not like Bucky didn't have his redemption as well, but. Sam...
He still has his flaws.
Sam hasn't need to be redeemed, right? Sam is the closest thing that they have to another Captain America, to someone who's human. Has the same ideas, and he spent so much time around the guy. How could it not rub off on you?
Right.
How could it not be there? So the final thing is Thor gives up being king of Asgard, gives it to Valkyrie, and Valkyrie takes it, surprisingly, and he goes off to be with the Asgardians of the Galaxy. It's the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Peter Quill's
Peter Quail.
Peter Quail.
Hey, Quail. Peter Quail.
Dude, you just called me Quail.
It's Quill.
Yeah, that's what I said.
That's what I
said. Their back and forth was just
it was so funny.
It was a great preview for what's to come.
Everyone knows who's in charge here. Everyone knows.
Why don't you guys just battle?
I got two pistols. You guys want to settle this?
Or some knives. And then
knives. Yes, please, knives.
She's in the background, with the fingers.
Yes, please, knives. So I can't wait for Guardians of the Galaxy 3, because Thor will be in it. Or it's possible, and I was telling Lauren this, with Guardians of the Galaxy 3 being stalled until 2022, they could possibly make a whole Thor movie with the Guardians with Thor between that. And whether that happens or not, I don't know. But so moving forward, no end credit scene. Loved it. I love not getting an end credit scene. I love the finality of this. And
well, let's not skip. I mean, they had a surprising additional scene by the lake with Scarlet Witch and Hawkeye.
Oh yeah. Right.
Referencing, the ones that sacrificed for these stones, Vision for her. And then also he was there when Black Widow sacrificed herself. I was surprised. I didn't think it was necessary, but...
Well, he also was the one that mentored her and Quicksilver how to be heroes.
Okay.
Right, if you remember in Age of Ultron.
Yeah, in Age of Ultron, yep.
Well, I only watched it once, maybe twice. Because I did not like. It's not one of my favorites.
Hawkeye's moments are the best in that movie.
But I love that final scene with Cap and Peggy dancing.
Oh yeah,
with the final kiss. It was such a Hollywood perfect ending, and the music again.
Oh, you mean Carl and Ellie? Because he totally upped that. Like that was when at the end that's up, man. That's Carl and Ellie, man.
It was gorgeous, and it made my heart sing, and I thought it was a perfect ending, and it was so much fun. It was a long movie, but
it went by quick.
I think it went overall pretty quick. The midsection, I think, was the longest.
Only my bladder knew what time it was. So moving forward, we do know that there are branches in time. We do know there's a Loki TV show that's going to take place in an alternate timeline, supposedly. We know that Wanda and Vision is supposedly taking place in the 1950s. Okay. And we know that Sam and Bucky are going off to have their own adventures as well. And there is a Hawkeye TV series in the making too. Him probably training his daughter and probably living that vigilante life.
Right.
Because look, sweetheart, we're all about that superhero life here. But I hated that line. I hated Rhodey in that line.
Yeah.
It's such a cheesy line.
That wasn't the best one. But I was thinking maybe a Patreon episode. We'll just do a big fun-filled MCU like theory show where we just discuss like all the things in nitty-gritty details in this movie, but also going forward. What things could happen as well, because there's other things that we don't have time to put into this show, and we can bring out some more notes and then just do a Patreon show. It'll be a lot of fun.
Oh, it's just time to end this here, man.
Yeah,
we just gotta end it.
We do.
So I want to thank all of you guys for listening to us tonight. If there's anything in Infinity War that we missed, anything that you wanted us to discuss or elaborate on, but we don't have the answers that you're looking for. I know like everybody wants to know how does Cap put the stones back in time so easily? I have no clue. I don't even.
Where did the hammer go?
Right. Where did Valkyrie get that winged horse? We don't know.
Yeah. I know the answer to the hammer already.
How exactly does the world readjust to the reintroduction of 50% of its population after 5 years? They just do. And why couldn't they snap Tony back into existence before returning the stones? That's very easy. Because there are consequences to using the stones, just like there's consequences to getting the stones. So they couldn't unsnap Gamora. They couldn't unsnap Black Widow. They can't unsnap Tony either. Died by the stones, you stay dead. And did the Ancient One live on Bleecker Street back in the day? Doctor Strange first met her in Kamartaj. Well, she did that day. She was needed. And remember, they are wizards. They can pop themselves in anywhere they want.
She might have known that he was coming.
Yeah. And, of course, where the heck was Goose? Well, Goose would have just been... If he was on that field, he would have swallowed everything, and it all just would... The whole thing would have been over. Captain America wouldn't have needed to get up that one final time, because... Goose just would have swallowed Thanos whole, crapped out a double-edged blade, a double-sided sword. Oh, man. So I want to thank you guys for all listening. If you want to catch more Super Movie Bros, you can check us out on Patreon. That is patreon.com/Super Movie Bros. And you can pledge as little as $1 a month to get those additional content. We are part of the Podfix Network, so head to podfixnetwork.com. You can check out our show and all the other amazing shows that are part of the Podfix Network. You can also check out all of our movie cocktail recipes on there. Just go to the drop-down menu and select Movie Cocktail. We, of course, have a sponsor. That's Blowfish for hangovers.com. Promo code SMBFish. Get your 15% off. Check us out on Podcoin. Earn a little bit for your listening efforts. Trailer Park Music, which we didn't use, but that is brought to you by Thomas Iannucci, so check him out on Spotify. Have a great night.
Cheers.
Assemble. Trying to explain this, which I love Rhodey when he's like, boom, why don't we just go back in time, find Thanos and the baby, and just...
Yeah.
Okay,
the motion of struggling, or excuse me, strangling a toddler baby.
Okay, that's dark.
Yeah.
Well, come on, we've all talked about doing that, like going back in time, just strangle Hitler, you know? Just Thanos.
We've all thought about that.
We've all thought about that, yeah. Thanos is worse. Turned way more people into ash. Anyway.
Yeah.
I gotta cut that out.
Oh, yes, you do. You really do.
Yes. So,